Guys, okay, so I am so excited. I just had a huge breakthrough, downloads of information, like something just so profound in my life, okay? So, first of all, I have to thank um, Trey because the last thing that you wrote is what triggered all of this. I don't usually understand like maybe 10% of what it is that you write, but obviously somewhere inside me I totally understood something. So, let's start from the beginning. Before I read that, I was watching a video from a channel called Everyday Masters, and he was talking about his mother-in-law and how she is like in this totally different vibration than what he is. He's a kind of a really a go with the flow kind of guy, and she's a has to know details about everything. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I'm such a Virgo. Like I want to get all the details about everything. And at the same time I realized that that's my mom. And there's there's a place for that. And I'm not saying that it's all bad, okay? There's a place for that. But then there's other times when it's just so annoying, like I can't even hardly stand it, okay? Like I understand why she sometimes treats me like I'm, 10 years old because I have a lifetime of irresponsibility in her eyes. And I understand that she had to learn that in order that was a coping skill for her and because of the chaos that she had growing up as a child. So I get it. But I certainly don't want to be that. But it is kind of too what kind of crushed my little bubble of love and happiness makes the world go around. When I was younger, their priorities are a little bit different. So now with that being said, so I read what Trey wrote and jumped in the shower after the beach. And it just started just to hit me. Like, I've been so wrong. I have been so wrong about defining love, okay? I can totally see where it came from, why I'm saying that. It's not that we need to define love, it's we need to undefine love, okay? Because love, the way that I understand it, is that it just is, and it's a beautiful thing, and I freaking love everything and everyone. And, and just the way that they are without judgment. And so in thinking about that, the really big huge thing for me in my life is that now I can like take that whole the way that I don't define love and stop fucking trying to define everything else in my life, okay? So this has been totally freeing for me. But let's just talk about love for a second as to why we cannot and should not try and define it. Because I realize that love is an expression of everything on this planet. We are, all of us individually, we are all an expression of love. Even the negative stuff that goes on is in some form or fashion an expression of love, and that depends on our perspective. So I'm looking at my notes so I don't forget anything, okay? So if I'm an expression of love, the last thing that I want to do is have you try and define me and tell me how I should or shouldn't be. It takes away from my sovereignty. It takes away from the sovereignty of love in itself if we try and define it, right? So we know that love comes in all forms and fashions and degrees. So for someone to try and say that you shouldn't love this or you shouldn't love that or you should love that or you should love it this way or that way, that is absolutely diminishing our ability to be able to love freely, because that's what love is. It's free, it's fluid, it's it's meant to be that way, without definition, without restriction. And I've also talked about in the past about like how it's the beauty of the design where even the negative stuff that happens to us, as long as we adopt the perspective that, we've learned and grown from it, that too is an expression of love. I think that all of these hurts and pains and traumas and everything that we've been through has absolutely been meant to provide us more love, and if nothing else, to teach us how to have self-love again, and self-compassion and all of that again, right? Because it is that for ourselves, as within, so without. So if I have self-love for me, then I should be able to have, be able to express love outside of myself. Um, so so it is about like, you know, simply beginning again to love with our heart mind in that childlike wonderment. Okay. And again, without construct and without definition and without limitation, it's why like a child can love a stuffed animal or a blanket or anything else for that matter with all their heart, because no one's told them that they can't love that way outside of themselves. So now here's where it gets really good. So here's the awesome thing about Sophia's defined feminine love. So it's a twofold kind of love. There's the kind of love that we give to children to heal, when their feelings are hurt, okay? And the kind of love that we give a childlike heart through, to have them follow their passion, to have them, to lift them up, to give them inspiration. The last thing that we want to do is crush their spirit. And so that's one kind of Sophia divine feminine love. On the other hand, there is the love of the loving kindness of correction, which we give to older children or to each other as adults. And it has to be done through loving kindness that we do this. I think of my adult children, there have been times when I've had to say something to them that they weren't going to like they were not going to like hearing it. But I needed to say it because they needed to be corrected. And it was going to piss them off. But the great thing about it is that I can say it to them in a way that, the next day or later on, I can come back to them and very simply say, you're done being mad at me, right? And I'm done being mad at you. You know why I had to say that. Sometimes it doesn't, I don't even have to say anything because it just manifests out. They got it. They make the correction and so it's done. And so, the next day I call and say, hey, I love you. And that's that. We don't ever have to address the issue ever again. So I don't know. I'm just so excited. I feel totally free now. For a change, I feel like I don't have to define everything, that I can actually, if I start looking at everything else in my life the way that I see love, which is unconditional, which is without boundaries, which just is. I can love anyone and anything that I want to in the way or degree that I want to love them. And no one has the right to tell me that I can't. So with that being said, once again, I was wrong, and I'm glad that I was wrong, and I can make this video and correct myself. All right, guys, much love to you all. Talk again soon.